Hi there. Let's talk about useless things people spend money on. And I'm saying useless things because there are those things which you could end up spending money on and derail your trajectory towards working to financial freedom. That's why I'm making this video, for you to understand some of the things out there which people are spending money on, yet they'd rather be using this money, for example, to invest and doing other things. And by the way, for you to be able even to appreciate something is useless when spending money on it is for you to understand the flow of money. Guys, the flow of money out here has four constituents in it. In essence, it has incomes, how you make money, okay? It has expenses, the fundamental things you need to spend money on, or else your life is gonna stop. For example, you having housing, you eating, and so forth, okay? We have liabilities, things you get into or situation you find yourself in, which you have to again get out of for you to be able to unlock an additional money. Things like, for example, debt, things like, for example, cars which you have acquired through loan, and so forth. And then we have assets. The magic happens in assets, whereby the rich focus on assets out here, yet the poor focus on expenditure. And that's why I'm making this video to share with you 5 useless things which people spend money on, yet they rather use this money for investing. Having said that, you are all much welcome to the Money Daily YouTube channel. My name is Arphaxade Sifuna. By the way, if you are new here, kindly consider subscribing to this channel. Subscribe for you to be getting such awesome videos around personal finance, investing, business ideas each and every day. Having said that, here are the 5 useless things which people spend money on, money which they rather be using for investing. Item number 1, spending money on expensive coffee and junk food. Look here, guys. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat. Yes, you should eat. But you walking around, for example, randomly deciding to spend even something like, for example, $2, $3 on random expensive coffee or even junk food just because you're feeling you have money in your pocket is one of the most useless expenditures you can incur. Reason being, you are spending money which you haven't planned to spend in the first place, and even so, you're spending money on concoctions or even kind of food which ultimately is not healthy for yourself, okay? You'd rather, for example, have very well planned food out there in your house. You go about cooking, preparing these foods, having hearty, wholesome meals, or even yet, you can have that planned spending on coffee, maybe once, twice a month, you name it, but not really spending money on expensive coffee each and every day just because you feel you have money. Ultimately, do the basic math. For example, you're spending somewhere between $3 to $10 each and every day. Guys, in a month, we're talking about you spending upwards of $250 on just coffee alone. Think about it. How insane is that? For most households out here, in fact, that is sufficient money for their month's groceries, and yet you're spending it on coffee just because you can. Of course, people may be wondering, why is that important if you can afford it? Yes, it is important if you can afford it well and good. And by the way, in case, for example, you're spending money on this coffee while you're conversing with a friend, conversing with someone in your network who can assist you lock business deals, that is a good expenditure. But if you're just spending on yourself because you can, at the end of the day, guys, we have better alternatives, right? And then, the second useless thing you can spend money on is you spending money on expensive alcohol just because you can, and even worse, you drinking yourself silly. By the way, guys, one principle I have is that unless you are extremely rich, you are a multi-millionaire. In the first place, you have no right to be drinking expensive alcohol out here. And I'm saying so because what is the essence of, for example, spending a quarter, spending 30% of your income on alcohol, and yet you're lagging behind on some of the key areas in life? For example, you owning a house. For example, you having investments out there, you having assets out there. If you're spending a huge chunk of your income on alcohol, most of spending on expensive alcohol, you need to recheck your life. And I'm saying that all this coming from a good place, because ultimately you are setting yourself up for an addiction which you won't be able to get out of, and yet your financial life isn't even in the best shapes possible. So focus first of all on yourself. Focus on building your financial muscle, and then you can start enjoying the finest of alcoholic drinks out here. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you are on a particular pathway of working towards obtaining that much elusive financial freedom, work on that very well first. And then you can't focus on spending money on expensive alcoholic drinks out here. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink. Of course, for some people out there, they have to occasionally drink alcohol. Well and good. But just ensure you spending the right amount of money on alcohol. Don't spend your entire amount of earnings on alcohol. That is useless expenditure. Okay? And then the third useless way you can go about spending your money is spending huge fortune of your income or money entertaining useless, I'm saying useless in quotes, useless friends or even a lover who you don't have a clear future with. What do I mean? Guys, I have seen people out there trying to fit in very hard. Even some go to the extent of spending their income entertaining people who don't really care about them out there. How brutal is this world? Someone is out there spending money to entertain people who don't give a damn about them. Someone is spending money to entertain people out there who they don't have a future with. How useless is that? Yes, you're gonna spend this money, yes, for the moment gratification, but how is it contributing to your future? In no way. I'd rather you spend maybe a good amount of money on someone you have a very clear future with. Of course, when people are out here dating, yes, you could spend money occasionally, for example, for eating out, for giving someone a gift and so forth, but also ensure you have this in check. You don't go all out, spending almost the entire chunk of what you're earning to entertain someone, and yet you're not even very clear with regards to whether you have a future with them or not. And even when it comes to the friends front, you could be entertaining friends who really don't have a value add to your life. They aren't assisting you improve your life positively. They aren't assisting you get business deals out there. You're just meeting to spend money and that's it. Talk about irrelevant things which don't bring in money, and yet you are spending a huge chunk of the money you're earning. Guys, that is a useless way of spending money. You'd rather spend this money in another way. Okay? And then the fourth thing which you're gonna spend money on actually is a useless expenditure is you spending money on expensive or latest gadgets. Let's all face it. We have people out there who have kind of an addiction whereby each and every device coming out, they want to buy it. Most are just for show off. To give you an example, we all sitting here knowing very well, yes, we're gonna have iPhone 16 Pro, we're gonna have iPhone 18 Pro, you name it. In case already, for example, you have iPhone 10, okay, iPhone 8, which is working pretty well. It isn't, for example, slow on speed. It is serving you well. What is the essence of really buying the most latest of gadgets, and that even within 1 year's time is gonna be phased out? Again, you're gonna have the pressure to buy other latest of gadgets. Guys, you are wasting money. You rather, for example, invest that money in the stock market of Apple. Buy Apple stocks. That is a better expenditure as opposed to you spending money on purchasing the latest of devices. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy. Yes, you can buy the latest of devices, but only buy if it is within your realm of expenditure and also within what according to you is something like a reasonable expenditure. For example, it is useless for you, for example, to spend $2,000 on a latest particular gadget or device, and even your earning is below $2,000. What exactly are you doing? You're gonna be wasting yourself. This money, you'd rather use it in a better way so that you can be able to trigger generation of future incomes, as opposed to you spending money on these frivolous things which really don't have any value add to you. And by the way, it's quite funny because a good number of people out there who spend money on these expensive gadgets, latest devices, even are not using just 5% of that particular device functionality. Why spend money on something you are not utilizing? All that is futile, all that is useless. And then the fifth useless thing you can spend money on, and even so you need to avoid in the greatest extent you can, is you paying expensive rent just for show off, just for people to know, for example, you are living in the most posh of places in the city, and yet you are straining to pay this expensive rent. I'm pretty sure whichever country you are in out there, you have seen those people who get gratification when people, for example, say they live in the most expensive suburbs in the city, they live in the coolest places in the city. Yes, you get a social gratification, but beyond that, how is it positively contributing towards your financial future? In fact, it is derailing you because you are actually pushing loss of the chunks of the income you're getting towards paying someone for rent income. Guys, you'd rather, for example, pay for mortgage. You'd rather, for example, pay for housing schemes out there by government, so that ultimately after going through a particular pain of paying rent or even paying whichever mortgage out there for multiple years, you're gonna become the owner of this particular property. It is useless, for example, for you to pay over 50% of your monthly income on rent for you to enrich someone out there, and yet you aren't really getting the most optimal of utility. And by the way, people out there pay expensive of rents most of the times because it's either their organization paying for them rent, or even so, they are paying this expensive rent because they know that is a form of investment. For example, you could find a couple of friends who do businesses together regularly. They have to meet regularly each and every day, living around the same confines, each of them paying expensive rent. They are doing that, and yet they are able to recoup all the money they are paying in rent through other investment options out there. If you aren't among these two kind of people I've talked about, stop wasting your money, stop wasting your energy, and rather spend your money in alternative ways out there for you to be able to actually set yourself on the proper trajectory towards working to obtain that financial freedom. You might be wondering, I've talked about all these useless things you can spend money on. What could you rather do for you to be able to spend money in the right trajectory? Guys, in this video I want to give you advice on the right things to spend money on, but I'm going to share with you the basics, okay? The very first basic is always budget. Because people out here, for example, have pocket change, have money to spend on coffee, to spend on useless junk food out there. Reason being, they haven't budgeted. If you've budgeted, all your money has actually been earmarked for specific expenditure. You won't have that spare money which you can spend freely just because you can dip your hand in your pocket. You can, for example, swipe your credit card, swipe your debit card, and be able to spend. You're gonna be cautious because you know you have budgeted your money. So ensure you budget your money for you to be able to also control some of these appetites out here, most around impromptu purchases and even buying things which you haven't planned to buy. And then secondly, also utilize discounts or coupons out there. Most companies out there have discounts, have coupons to encourage you to spend or even to reduce your cost of expenditure. For example, a good number of petrol stations out there or gas stations out there have, for example, coupons when using your credit card, maybe 3% back, 5% back, and so forth. Utilize this because, guys, each and every money you're trying to save out there goes a long way in assisting you build that much needed financial muscle. You working towards obtaining that much elusive financial freedom. So utilize coupons, utilize discounts, and you're gonna be able to also have more and more money in future. And then the third thing which you need to do, which also is very critical, is you building high value connections. If you build high value connections, ultimately you're gonna be spending money, if you have to spend really, on your friends, or even on your networks, which ultimately are gonna give you back business. So spend time to build connections, which are gonna be very fundamental in assisting you build your financial muscle. What do you all think about this video? Are there other useless things which have been spoken about, which people out here spend money on, and then ultimately they end up regretting, or even so, these expenditures aren't useful for them? If there are, share that in the comment section down below. Let's continue discussing there. Thanks a lot for watching. I look forward to share with you guys other awesome videos next time. Bye bye, and you all take care.